And it's wonderful having, 5-foot fences, but still having like over a quarter of an acre to run around. There's agility equipment, there's, trees on the property, all different sorts of smells and things like that. So that was really important to me, especially having it as a like small group daycare. I think it's beautiful because we all have our own strengths, right? We all have our own passions too within the industry. Like not like I didn't really get into this industry to become a trainer.
I'm Olivia.
I'm Laura, and this is Ruffly Speaking, a podcast driven by honest, curious conversations about life with dogs.
Each episode, we explore one story or idea that helps us see our relationships with dogs a little differently.
It's not about perfect training or quick fixes. It's about the real, sometimes messy, always evolving nature of sharing life with dogs. Look at us in one
Yay,
go.
we did it! No mess ups like that stupid Uber.
And you were like you can see your face that I was losing you, like when I was talking.
Just like zoned out. I was like gone. Too funny. Oh my God.
Right.
But oh my God, we just filmed our episode with Alysha from Tales and
Yay.
Tales. It was my first time meeting her. And well, not really meeting her because we're doing this virtually.
Boy,
But
as
close to meeting her as I can be. But Laura, you have worked with Alysha before. You guys have actually worked with a client. You guys have worked with a client together. So can you tell us a little bit about, I don't know, just Alysha and Tales and Tales? And yeah, just give us a little debrief before we jump into this episode.
Yes. So just so everyone has the context. So Alysha owns Tales and Tales. We'll go into the specific time, like, how do you say it? Like spelling. So we're going to the specific spelling of it in the episode. But she started in pet sitting, and now she has evolved into having what we call the forest school or fur fam, which she basically merged the idea of a doggy daycare and off-leash hikes and turn into kind of like a very contained nature experience for dogs. And that is why I connected with her initially, because I was working with a dog training client, and what I really needed, like what that dog really needed before we could start with any training, was satisfying her needs. So in me trying to research all these options that they could use, Alysha came into my mind because she was offering this very contained, because, like when you're working with behavioral situations, recall is not often like sharp that we can really send your dog for an off-leash hike. So the fact that Alysha could offer this very contained but still having that socialization part and that nature aspect, I felt like that's what my client really needed. And yeah, like we work together very well. And yes, you'll listen in the episode. We are all like big fans of collaboration versus competition and figuring out everyone's strengths and how we can best serve our clients what they need, and not basically just pushing ourselves into the mix. So that is a big reason why I really wanted to have this conversation. And I really wanted Olivia to meet her. And I was like, well, we can do it through the podcast. So why not? So yeah, I hope that you enjoy the conversation. We'll go into things like entrepreneurship and starting our own businesses and what it entails, and then working with dogs and what they teach us and what they teach us. And so yeah, it's a little bit of everything, a lot of collaboration and trying to be just the best humans we can be in this world. I think we can sum it up like that. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. Anything else you want to add before we
I
start the
think
episode?
this is just such a great episode to listen to if you are also have your own small business, or you're just starting in pet care, pet training, pet. I feel like there needs to be a word for describing all the, I'm always like, how do I even describe dog care, pet industry,
dog industry,
dog stuff. if you're into, if you're starting out in this industry, I think it's a good listen because it will give you the right mind framework or headspace before going into the crazy life and chaos that is dogs. And it's a wonderful and rewarding experience to be in this industry, but there's also a lot of stuff you have to kind of deal with as like a business owner, as an entrepreneur. And I think Alysha has some really good insights in terms of, being in the right headspace before you get into it. And her journey is so organic and very like holistic. I feel like holistic is a word that describes her. So I think this will be a fun one for people to listen to. And yeah, and see how it can help them on their own journeys, or, just sit with us and chat with us and listen while you're doing your dishes or something.
We're always pushing the dishes, but like
Yeah.
it's a good time to watch because if you're listening this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you may want to pop into YouTube because there is a doggy you have to see in the beginning. So just putting that out there, so you can choose like, okay, if you have your iPad around there, like just bring it out, take a look, see. But if not, if you're driving, continue driving, and then just enjoy the conversation.
All right, guys. We'll see you in the episode.
Woo. Hello, everyone. So I am very excited to finally have here Alysha. Honestly, this has been a conversation that I've been wanting to have for a while, and especially having both Alysha and Olivia, because I think like just to give people context, I kind of like met Alysha separately, and I've been wanting to introduce Olivia and have a conversation. It's like, why not doing it in the podcast? So here we are, and we have, of course, Tucker, her loyal guardian there, and he had to be at the front and center. So we love that. So how are you, Alysha?
We're good. We're thankfully dry now after coming back from a hike. Tucker just had the best nap ever, so we are ready to chat. We are very excited.
For anybody who's joining just through the podcast and not through YouTube, Tucker's wearing this adorable holiday handkerchief bandana.
Yeah.
It's so cute. And is he like, what color is he? He's like brown or more red?
So he's considered a cinnamon poodle. So
Oh.
when he was a pup, he was like Scottish man red, like very, very red. But he has since faded to a strawberry blonde. But his red bandana is iconic. He always has a bandana on. I just think when he does it, I'm like, ew, you're naked. Like you need to get your So now in the winter we have our nice Christmas bandana on.
So
Makes us
cute. I love that. And I am so happy that like Tucker is right there because I always ask people like bring your dog out. So like with you we didn't have to, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're just listening on Spotify, just have to go to YouTube so you can really have a picture of this cinnamon poodle that I didn't know it was a thing.
I didn't either.
So we're all learning already, like in the first 2 minutes of this podcast. Anyways, Alysha, I don't know if like we always kind of like start with the thing that connects everyone that joins this podcast, which is if you can talk a little bit about how you fell into the dog business world, the dog world in general, and then talk a little bit about tails and tails, like because I don't speak English, like I don't know if I have to pronounce both of them separately, so I'm just like I repeat the same word like tails and tails, but it's spelled tails as in a tail of a dog and tails as in a story. So I know that you have a lot of storytelling in your story, which is something that we both appreciate and love. So yeah, if you can touch on those things of how you got to where you're at right now, that would be amazing.
Yeah, sure. So it's, as I'm sure with everyone's story, kind of back to the doggy world. It's a bit longer and twirly, but it all makes sense in the end. And let me hear. I think as both of you know, or as we've connected before, we have a media background. I have a media background, so I was working at Rogers in Toronto doing like media for commercials and TV. And at that time, I was doing it like across Canada, and I was working with like brands like McDonald's and Ford and stuff like that. And as a vegetarian, I was like, I'm not really totally connecting with promoting the new death sandwich at McDonald's, like, "Go buy now." I was like, "Why don't" like, media is a public service, why don't we use it towards, basically just I believe that love is the most powerful force in the universe, so I've always been on a mission to spread love as my living. And so I was like, "Why don't we use this commercial time to basically help people improve their life, love themselves, love humanity, all of that kind of thing at the same time." And so I was working really, really hard to do that, but everybody was saying, no, no, too risky. Big brands aren't going to go for this, et cetera, et cetera.
There's not money on that.
No, unfortunately not. And I'm like, why? Like, why not use it? Like, we have free airtime. Why not use it to help people improve their life versus just consume, consume, consume? And so basically, I got really fed up with that and I decided to start my own media company. And so in that, I started working with nonprofit brands. I started working with veterinary hospitals and just people in like the personal development, mainly people that ran women's retreats. And so I was traveling all around Canada to shoot content and do promotional videos. Um, my main client was veterinary hospitals. And so I would
Oh.
spend all day shooting content, being with these animals at the vet clinic. And then because I was traveling, I would do a lot of Airbnbs and I would come home to the Airbnb and be like, where are the animals at? Like, I'm so lonely. I don't like this. I want to cuddle. I want some companionship. And so I joined Trusted House Sitters community, which is amazing because I was able to have accommodation as well as companionship while traveling around, and it was all just working out so, so well. And so I was doing that sort of, you know, intermixed in between, right? At the
Uh-huh.
same time. And then as I was doing it, I mean, I was just getting repeat, you know, booked. And so I was traveling across BC mainly, like a lot of my main clients for media were across BC. So I was living in Toronto, I was going back and forth a lot. And so I was just using my opportunity to travel and do content and stuff like that while also being able to care for these pets. And I just fell so in love and with like every single pet. And I was like, I don't want to leave. Like, I love them so much. And so, yeah, basically, long story short is that I just kept getting, booked again and again. I kept getting referred. And then I was like, I actually really love this business a little bit more. Like, I'm falling a little bit more in love with this business. And, as much as I loved media and being able to use that sort of like altruistic advertising towards nonprofits and vets and things like that, I really wanted to just sort of step into building like sharing my own ideas, my own ethos, because when you're working like as a freelancer, right, you're kind of just taking obviously like using your creativity, but doing somebody else's message. And so I just wanted
Mhm.
to be able to, like I said, love for a living. Like, I just believe that love is the most powerful force in the universe. And I was like, I really want to lean into this. And so I got back from traveling back to Toronto and I was like, all right, I'm going to start my pet sitting business because I love this so much. And so I started it and I partnered with a dog walker actually. So I started doing dog walking. And she was just doing dog walking, I was just doing pet sitting, and so we were kind of like a symbiotic
Uh-huh.
relationship there,
Uh-huh.
so we were always kind of giving each other referrals and just building up our community there, and then I got Tucker.
The little boy came into the picture.
Yes, my son arrived into my life, and it was just such a because like I said, the business was already growing, like, I was already so involved in so many pets' lives, and dog walking all the time and things like that, and everything was good, and it's like, it was a business, but then Tucker really gave it a heart, I felt.
Oh.
I started
Mhm.
having to understand, training and reactivity and, just and at the same time too, I started to phase out of my, because I was doing them at the same time, I started to phase out of my media business because I wasn't taking on any new clients, but I still had projects on the go. So I did have to travel back and forth a lot still, but while I had Tucker. And so I sort of got a whole new lens on, I want to create a business that basically has the exact way that I would want Tucker to be treated when I'm away
Mhm.
traveling, right? So I started to just get, oops, sorry. I started to dive even deeper into that. And then, so we were still in Toronto, and my best friend at the time, what, because I was traveling back and forth from Vancouver a lot, she was living here. She got accidentally pregnant with twins and was like, "We both want to work and we need help with the babies. So I know you want to move to Vancouver. We'll give you a place to stay in exchange for helping take care of the kids." And so Tucker and I are like, this is our shot. Like, so we drove across the country from Toronto to Vancouver and basically, yeah, started up the business here. And we were doing commercial dog walking for about a year and a half. And we were loving it, dealing with 60 dogs a week, hiking in the mountains. Toronto doesn't have any
Mhm.
of that kind of stuff. It's also when we were doing dog walking in Toronto, it was like minus 30 degrees on a sidewalk,
Oh my gosh. No, thank you.
2 feet of snow. So here, he's like, "Oh, winter, 5 degrees, rain." I'm like, go.
You really appreciate, right? I mean, I'm coming from Mexico right now, and it's just like, damn, it's so cold and rainy. But when you're coming from like minus 30, like this is like amazing. I can do this.
Yeah,
Alicia, I wanted to ask you though, because like when you started your own media company, and was it intentional that you were wanting to have like veterinary clinics as your clients, or did that something that just happened kind of randomly and it just fell upon you and you just started getting more clients that way?
yeah, it was
Yeah.
very synchronistic, like the latter. It just so happened that I was connected to a couple of people, that was like a, sort of like a management company for vet clinics. And so all of these vet clinics
Mhm.
use the management company to help them like manage, hire, and just like promote their businesses. So then I came in and
Mhm.
was like, let's go to each individual clinic and talk about the lifestyle and show obviously how passionate these people are about their work. So it was
Mhm.
it was amazing that it was very sort of synergistic in that sense of, you know, I just fell into it, but it ended up being like the most aligned thing ever because it allowed me to get really into this industry. And I think,
Mhm.
overall, coming from the media side of things, like as you mentioned, Tails, the first part of it is obviously Tails, the dogs, the pets, really. But then the second part of it, Tails, the fairy tale or the storytelling part of it, is really that is that, every dog has a story, every person has a story, and they sort of like teach us how to be human in a more
Mhm.
authentic and I guess true way more than anything else. And I love acronyms. So like my media company was named after an acronym, and TAILS I really think stands for, truth, artistry, learning, empathy, and story. And I think that that's sort of what we're trying to do because Tucker is my little mirror. I've never learned more about myself and my shadows, best moments and my favorite, types of adventures and things like that more, than dealing with him. So it's been
Mhm.
wonderful. And I think, as I mentioned, like in starting things up here, doing a year and a half of commercial dog walking, I've gotten to know so much about, dog behavior, psychology. I've gotten the certifications and all of that. And I just fell so deeply into, you know, these little beings really, really, almost like just bring out the humanity, I think, in me at
Mhm,
least,
mhm,
and all of us because care is such an honor and nurturing is such an honor to be able to, build a business around, I think.
mhm,
And in building the daycare as well, like that has been such a vision, like I said, coming from the idea of loving for a living and just being able to create a sanctuary and a space that dogs are able to thrive in their most natural environment, and the decompression and nervous system work that we do, and just building a community around all things like that. Yeah.
I love that. It's so funny because I am reading this book and it's all about how if we are kind of like present to the science of like it's all about like stoic philosophy that I'm very into right now, and it talks about logos, but it could be like the universe, God, like whatever, like bigger thing out there. So like it's always telling you something, and it's funny how the way that it was just pushing you into like animals and dogs of like, okay, like you're still in media, but like what about this vet
Yeah.
clinics? And I just find it very interesting. And also, I want to mention how it was like this last thing that you mentioned of like the community aspect and creating the sanctuary and the connection to nature. And it's really because of that that I connected with you initially, as I do with every human that I connect with on Instagram. I feel like with this podcast, like people kind of think that I just do that and I just connect with everyone. But it's just like this type of people that you see. And number one, it was the branding, because like I like both me and Olivia, we love a good brand. And when I saw that all of your videos, like, like even Tucker was wearing red, and like your, like everything that you were writing, it's in red, and like your page. So like you can tell when like this person has a background there. And I remember it was you one time that we chat that you were like, do you have a background in media? Because I feel like we can identify.
I was gonna say I spotted it right away too. I'm looking at your stories. I was look at her putting her little logo in there on every story. Like you gotta represent.
Exactly. And I feel like we kind of like call each other once we identify that. But yeah, and it was the way that we, like just connecting and being open, because that's another thing that I want to say about you, that, it's hard in this time and age. And that's something that Olivia and I were talking with other dog professionals yesterday, that it's so hard to find people to refer clients to, because you can see one thing online on social media, but then you talk to the person and it turns out like a whole different thing. Or you hear about things and it's just like, it's a horror story sometimes. So it's hard to find people that you can feel like, okay, like with this person, I can collaborate, I can refer clients to. And I think with you, so like the same thing that happened with Marina before, it was that it was immediately that it was like, oh, okay, I like this. We chatted, like I saw what you were doing. And turns out that we ended up helping each other with a training client that I had. And then and it was just such a funny thing because I did a giveaway. So I was like just gonna give this session. I ended up having this client who really needed help, like ASAP. And then the dog really needed like exercise and being out and like socialization and exposure. And I offer, like I was like, well, like there's different ways that you can like provide this, and there's the hikes, and there's like I also suggested one of these things that you can run your dog, like the treadmill thingy. So I was like, okay, because I would love for her to be in nature and running, but because of her recall that it's not amazing, they were like very afraid of just having her on like an off-leash hike where it's like she's gonna be gone. So you were just like, your daycare was just the perfect middle ground where it's like it's freedom, it's nature, but it's contained. So I don't know if you can now explain how you evolved that pet sitting situation into this like like forest school that I think like me and Krista keep referring to. But I just find that it's
I
such
love
a
that.
funny way for you to like, and that's what I love about, I think, like the businesses that we are like bringing into the podcast, that we are all doing something a little bit different. And I think like you have that with this daycare idea. So yeah, if you can explain how you are evolving into this service, I feel like that's very interesting.
Yeah. No, I love that. What did you say? The forest school? Is that what you call it?
Forest school.
I love it because you know what the best part about it, well, one of the funniest things I find about it is that my clients have been calling it the fur farm. And I didn't brand it as that at all. I was like, "Daycare at the acreage," like, this and that, and they're like, "We can't wait for our dogs to go to the fur farm," and I was like, "Oh my god, I kinda love that now," 'cause our community, our membership is called the Fur Fam, so I was like, "Might as well call it the Fur Farm." It's so great, but the forest school is the best, but yeah, it's from exactly that sort of thing in the sense of, like, having, like, being a deeply sensitive person myself, like, being in this industry where we're all kind of I think we relate so much to animals because they're energetic beings, right? So they're very responsive to their environment. Nature heals, of course, like, bottom line, but the main thing was I wanted so coming from the commercial dog walking space and doing forest hikes, every single day for a year and a half and seeing the decompression that it offered, the joy that it offered, exercise, enrichment, all of the things, all the benefits, but then dealing with a couple of situations that were absolutely heartbreaking of lost dog situations which obviously is the risk for commercial dog walking in general, even just walking your own dog. But there were some really bad situations that happened, and it just broke my heart, and I was like, "I believe in this environment. I believe, obviously, in the ethos that nature heals and it's co-regulating and etcetera, but I wanna offer a safe solution." And having a daycare in the sense of there's so many that exist, and the indoor environment of it's great to have the space, but it's not always the best environment for the paws, for, their heightened hearing and everything like that, right? So I was like, "Let's do something different. Let's find an acreage so I can create this vision." Like, my future vision has always been to have an animal sanctuary. Um, and so the acreage really is the first step in going towards that. And it's wonderful having, 5-foot fences, but still having like over a quarter of an acre to run around. There's agility equipment, there's, trees on the property, all different sorts of smells and things like that. So that was really important to me, especially having it as a like small group daycare because being dogs that are slightly reactive, right, like when they have the opportunity to build real friendships they understand that, oh, I actually don't have to pop off and explode at every single dog that I see. And that's what we saw with Samu, like that has one
Mhm.
of the most magical things to experience, like her coming in referred from you and doing the training with you, having the muzzle on, kind of being overstimulated at first, but then being able to relax, and then now she's fully graduated to no muzzle. The
Mhm.
dogs don't even bark when she gets in the car anymore. She doesn't bark. Like, it's so beautiful to see that, the environment is something that soothes and heals and obviously offers so much stimulation and just the freedom that comes and the peace of mind that comes to both, the parents and the dogs, allowing them to have this experience.
Yeah, totally. And I think like in my case, when I was listening to, like the situation, because for like a specific reason, like they are not able to like take her for a walk and things like that. So when we were like considering all these options that we could provide to number one, start from the get-go with the needs. And like that's like a little tangent that I wanted to take that I feel it's so often like forgotten when it comes to training, when people have issues with their dogs and it's just like, okay, no, we're going to start training this and that, la, la, la. But it's like we have to start really from the bottom. And it's like if your dog has been depraved for like, not because the humans are terrible, like humans have their own things and they have their own struggles and they're trying their best. But sometimes like that means the dog is going to not be satisfying certain needs. Like we really have to start looking there. And to me, that is, it was very interesting because they've already been with trainers before and they started doing like all these things, but like exercise and movement, it was something that never showed up into the situation. It was never kind of like, okay, let's look into this baseline. Because the thing that I saw is like a dog that really needs to move. It's like, she's so smart. She is so energetic. She is a big girl. And it's like, this girl, this dog, we first need to start getting her out because how are we going to ask her to think if her brain is just like exploding with energy that is not going anywhere other to like her reactions. So it was very, very nice for me to like be able to find you and connect you. And I think as trainers, it's also so important to be able to collaborate with other service providers, which I feel like that's the part that it can be tricky because, it's just you don't want to step into someone else's shoes, but you really want to, like make sure that your client is okay and they're confident and, like taking care of all the parts. So it was just so nice with you because I think like you also took a very challenging doggy that I feel like not anyone would have done, like our little reckless thing that we were just doing what we could in the time that we had. But it was just like, we have to help this dog. Are you in? And you were like, yeah, I'm down. And Tucker was like, yeah, count me in. And it was just like a whole thing that one day people were going to do a video about it because we have everything in video. But it was, yeah, like it was amazing, at least from that first day, to see and to show the humans another side of their dog that they weren't able to see before because yeah, like I don't blame them. It was a little bit of chaos, but the fact that they got to experience that and to see what would happen if her dog would ever reach to other dogs, which it was kind of like the biggest fear, and seeing that even if like the response wasn't the best, working through it, at the end, it ended up that the two dogs, like Tucker and Samu, were just like sitting down together. And an off-leash dog, I remember, like even like reached to us, and like Alysha had to go there, like, can you take your
Yeah,
dog,
yeah.
please? But like everything was fine. So I think like just proving to people and having other dog pros that you can really take those risks, because you cannot do it with just like, oh yeah, bring your neighbor and we'll do that. So I think like that was really great for me. And I kept telling to Olivia because, like with Olivia and I are always talking of like, oh, how to help these things. And it was just like, Olivia, we did this thing. And it was crazy. But it was amazing to at least have this backup and your knowledge, and that we were both reading the situation kind of like the same way, that it was like, I was like, okay, can you back up? And you were already on your way out. And it's just so nice to find people that have done their homework when it comes to dealing with dogs and challenging dogs. And it's not just like, oh yeah, like I'll swing it. So that was very nice to
Can I
to
just
experience.
say from the outside perspective, since I wasn't part of like Samu's journey and you guys were both like helping her out and her family out, that like it was such a beautiful thing to watch because I've heard Laura and we've talked about this case and just trying to like bounce ideas off of each other. But then I've also seen some of the videos, and then I've also seen Alicia's videos on like Instagram. And like this is the beautiful thing about prioritizing collaboration over competition and having an open mind in working with others in the industry, even in the same services that you guys are doing or overlapping services, because you just never know when two people come together and are wanting to put in the work to help a family out who's really struggling with this reactive dog, this dog with a lot of big feelings and has a lot of challenges, that you guys can come together and show the family what is possible for this dog, even if they're not at a place where, you know, they were hoping to be at, or whatever it may be that they were hoping to get out of the situation. But it's just giving them hope that, they don't have to be stuck and they don't feel like they have to be trapped in a position where, they're not feeling any progress. So I think it was such a beautiful thing to watch the kind of journey that Samu went on with both of you and how you guys collaborated together to really help the whole family really with this situation.
Yeah, and I think it's beautiful because we all have our own strengths, right? We all have our own
Mhm.
passions too within the industry. Like not like I didn't really get into this industry to become a trainer. And I know
Mhm.
so many people that are trainers that are probably better trainers than I am, but for me, like a huge belief and just experience in my life and with Tucker and everybody, all the dogs in our community, is that joy is medicine, right? And it's
Mhm.
healing, right? And it needs to be a part of the dog's life. So of course, you guys come in and you're so great with the training, and I have, the certifications and stuff like that, so I have the background. But at the end of the day, being able to impact a dog's life in terms of like 40% training, but then 60% like let them be a dog, let them have some joy. It's like you said, the forest school. It's like any school. You want kids to learn. You can't just keep them in that box the whole day. You have to let them have recess. Let them go run around. Let them go make some friends. And I think that's what makes it so beautiful, like you said about the collaboration, is that we all have our own strengths, and you know, we don't have to be enemies just because we have ambition that is on the same path, right? There's all ways to sort of have a braid within our path, right? Where we're all kind of headed in the same direction, but at the same time offering unique perspectives and different skills and different options and stuff like that. So I love watching what you guys are doing as well, and just seeing the consistency in the transformation, right? That's come from prioritizing the training. And then also, of course, you guys have a lot of fun as well, which I see. Oh, and the Finder
Yeah, and
games, oh my God. And that's the thing too, is like just learning from each other. Like I see you post that on your stories, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna do that with Fabric on our next walk. Like, go find it in the tree.
yeah, and like we all learn from each other, and I think like and I think it's the scarcity mindset that sometimes kicks in, and it's just like, oh my God, I have to, like protect my terrain and la la la. But like if you think about it, like there's enough dogs for
There's
everyone. Like there's
so many
so
dogs.
many dogs. So it's like I think once because I'm not gonna lie, with like every single person that I've had, like when Olivia started her business, when Marina first advertised, like the first thought, I think is the most human thing to do. And it's just like, oh my God, like she's doing something very similar, or what is it going to happen? Or like in your case, I remember when you mentioned about, like, oh, maybe I'm thinking of like going to New West. And like you have that first instinct of like, oh, like, is she going to take everything? And it's just like, but once you calm down your nervous system and you remind yourself of like, number one, there's dog for everyone. And just with the example of Samu, like this dog may need something different, like something different from this. Like in this case, I was like, this dog needs nature. And as much as I, go to parks or like do sniffy things on trees, it's like the amount of exercise that this dog needs and the amount of just socializing, because she's so sociable. Like I think like she just wants to be dog with other dogs. And I feel like a lot of the things that was going on, and I like, don't get me wrong, there's still like a long journey with her, but like one thing that she really needed that is that information coming from other dogs. And I think like that's something that I mentioned to you when you posted, because I think like everyone in like the family, me, we were all crying the first time that we saw her, like having fun, like with like the huge smile that she was,
Literally
with no
the
muscle.
best smile, no muscle, just in her joy. And I was like, look, look what we made
She's just
possible. Like
happy.
it's just so great.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like that's something that I couldn't offer. And it's like if we go back to the actual reason why we do this, and I think like I mean it's not talking for everyone, because a lot of money, like a lot of people are here for the money, but like I feel like everyone in this podcast can have something in common, is that we're doing it because we want to help dogs and we want to help humans. So if you have that thing in mind, then you allow yourselves to kind of like break away from that part of like scarcity. I need to capture all the doggies. And it's like, no, I am going to send them to the person who I think is going to help them the most. I can help them, but I feel like this person can help them more than I can. And just accepting, like the things that you can offer, and just seeing the client as the number one priority. And if it means sending them with someone else, so be it. And I prefer not having a dog on my wait list and send them with Olivia, because she can just start helping the family. So I feel like that's the part that I'm learning to kind of like have grace for myself whenever the thoughts come in, because it's like, it's natural, it's human, we need to protect ourselves. And that's the first thing that happens. But there's a lot of value in recognizing when you are kind of like stopping yourself from that. And instead of like going into that rabbit hole, you go back and you say like, this is actually amazing. Like I have a new friend, I have a new partner, I have someone else I can refer to, I
Yeah.
have someone else I can trust that I can, like just tell people about. So I think it's like, it's okay to be a human, but then you have to go back and remember your values and like do the actions that take those values into the real world, I think.
Yeah.
I think also just hearing all of this too, it's like remind me of like, you know how they say that it takes a village to raise like a child? And it's kind of the same with dogs. And I think for a lot of people with reactive dogs or dogs with big feelings, they feel often so alone and they just don't know where to turn to or where to start. But like just if you could just reach out to anybody who you think might help, you never know where that's going to lead you. And like it might
Mhm.
connect you to more people who can help. And it's not unusual to have multiple people in your dog's life to kind of support them and help them through
Yeah.
different challenges, whether that be like their confidence, their reactivity, anything. So just think of your dog also needing a support system around them,
Mhm.
just like you would with a child.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think too, like in the human element of it as well, like, it's kind of lonely being an entrepreneur. It's definitely
Mm.
wonderful being an entrepreneur in this in this industry and field because you get to hang out with amazing, cute little energetic beings all day, every single day. So the companionship is there. But at the same time, the best part about being an entrepreneur is that you get to kind of pick your own coworker. So, the way that we're able to collaborate with each other and, like you said, it's sort of like a karmic thing in the sense that there's more than enough to go around and, the whole pay it forward type of thing. Like, my friend literally just moved to Poco, and as he's building, friends out there in a dog-friendly building, like, who's gonna be the first person that I think in that
Hi.
right? It's just
That's me.
yeah, it's all beautiful in the sense that we're able to, yeah, collaborate in this way, and yes, you
Yeah.
cuddles.
And I think it's also a reason why we started this podcast too, because we were just like, let's just talk to more people who are
Mm,
living with dogs, helping dogs, seeing how we connect in ways that we wouldn't have before, wouldn't have thought to. And I think it just makes, I don't know, it makes it feel less lonely too as an entrepreneur and as someone who's doing their own small business. And so much of your day to day is just kind of also being by yourself. Even though you're with dogs, you don't really talk to a lot of people
yeah,
on a
exactly.
day to day. So,
Literally,
yeah,
oh
it's
my
really
god.
nice.
It's funny when you have that moment when you get home and you're like, "I've used my voice so much today, but I haven't actually had a conversation at all today." I mean, you have
Not
a
with a
partner, so
human.
maybe it's a bit different, but I have no partner, so I just literally you and Tucker.
It's just you and Tucker all the time.
Yeah, it's just a
But yeah, no,
one-sided
I feel like
conversation.
and Tucker will just like look at you with his like wise eyes. But no, I just wanted to kind of like expand on that because today I mean, like I sometimes I'm just in my bike getting the rain and just getting inspired. And I was just feeling so happy to have, like now with this podcast, having a project that involves another human and
Yeah.
like knowing that if I am not doing something, then I come in and it's just like, whoa, like Olivia took over that. And it's just like, it's amazing because for the last like almost 3 years, like building Curious Newts has been very like all me, like my decisions. And that's amazing some days. And then other days it's just like, I would love to just have someone else to come in and make this decision for me or do this task. So I was just feeling very hyped about the fact that now with this project, like I actually have a partner that we can, like lean into. And if I'm having a tough day or just feeling like it's just like two humans against the world. But I feel like what you're saying is it's also very true. And that's something that we did yesterday. We met with other there's this amazing dog walker and pet sitter and trainer in Abbotsford. That's Farley's Pet Care,
Oh,
Farley's Friends Pet Care, which she will come into the podcast soon. So like people
that
will get to know her.
picture that you posted where like you're right beside Farley taking and she's smiling, you're all is it girl? Farley?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, you're
yeah.
all
Farley,
smiling.
no, Farley's a boy.
Oh, Farley's a boy, okay. Well, he's smiling so big and, like, that's like that album cover right there.
I know. That's what I was like. 'Cause he was just so happy to be around. But it was like it's finally starting to feel that as everyone that is an entrepreneur, like now we're having this like really nice moments where we can all come together because we are all dealing with the same things. We are trying to grow our businesses. We are trying to hire people. And then you have another person who's trying to do that. And at least it feels the void a little bit when you can have at least a conversation, because I am also going through a bit of a renovation and Curious Nudes. And actually the reason why we finally decided on having you on the podcast, like, I mean, my idea was like always like, yeah, we have to have her. But it was after a conversation that we had because I was struggling with like, okay, I want to do this switch, like have, like this different way of moving things. And I saw that you had the same thing that I wanted to do. So just having that ability of like going with someone and then having someone who is open enough to share your true thing of like, oh, you know what, like this was amazing in this thing. It was a challenge here. And, if you see it like this, I did it this and that. So it didn't feel like so abrupt. And it was like, it's so nice. It's so nice because I've had other times where I reach out to people and they give you like little sprinkles of like, oh yeah, I did this and blah, blah, blah. And then they just kind of like ghost you after that. So really finding people who are open and honest and they genuinely want to help the other human on the other side. I feel like that is what we need. And just like Olivia said, we started this podcast because we were like, that's a perfect opportunity to find more people like this because, we already have these ideas and these conversations that we're loving to have. And maybe that will bring us to someone else that also has like a great story to tell. So I think it's very nice for me that this is finally coming together and that we're doing this and that we are, like just building this community of entrepreneurs that we can at least support each other from within.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, like one of the things that we also talked about yesterday were kind of like some stuff that we struggled with in terms of having our own business and things that were actually working for us. Going back to Tails and Tails, because you have a media communications marketing background, can you give us a little insight as to like the back end of your business in terms of why did you choose storytelling as like the foundation of it? How does like your background in media help you in building your business? And if there are any struggles of the business in particular that you are kind of working through or you find more challenging in kind of creating this little empire of yours.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I had a conversation that like lives rent free in my mind every single day with one of my entrepreneur friends a while ago when I was first starting entrepreneurship in the media business, etc., is that entrepreneurship is self-development disguised as business. And it will make you face yourself in so many ways and all the little nooks and crannies of survival patterns and, wounds and limiting beliefs and all the things. And it's really a beautiful experience, at least from my perspective, like I said, in the storytelling aspect of it, or like you mentioned, that I feel like I'm kinda able to meet myself and express how I'm growing and learning and developing and progressing and things like that, while also seeing how the clients, the dogs in my community are starting scared, starting reactive, starting, in these shadowy parts of themselves, and then growing and developing into, a nice contributing member of doggy society. And I feel like I'm able to sort of do the same thing, and that's what I do a lot in my email marketing is it's interesting, you know, I guess in just having a brand online in general. Obviously, we're in the niche of the pet care, but there's nothing that really people love the most when I share stories about my personal journey with pets or with the business or with traveling or something like that. And I think that's just such a important reminder too that the storytelling is like the biggest part of it. Since the beginning of time, we all love to sit around the fire and listen to stories, right? And the things that connect you most to people isn't the wins and the transformation. Like, sure, that's great to hear, but it is the struggle. It is like, some of the less less glamorous part of life and things like that. And so when I share things about Tucker's reactivity or, being at a pet sit and he got bit and all of these sorts of like really kind of scary, sad things, people really connect to that because it, you know what I mean? Like allows them to, it allows all of us to sort of connect with our own fears and then see how we can sort of grow and glow from that. And so in the business myself, I feel like that's been the most interesting thing to do. At first I was like we talked about Laura, I was really scared of like, oh my God, I'm gonna like literally charge people to go out and have the time of my life and literally cuddle and love so hard on their animals. And it's like, well, yeah, that is a very valuable service in the world. We need that. And
It sounds
so,
too awesome to charge, but it's just like,
yeah.
yeah.
But then it's like, it's interesting because, in the sense that like it's people need it, right? Like there's always a market for I think okay, here, what am I trying to say here? There's like so many thoughts going through my head and Laura is growling right now and I'm like, "Oh my God, are you going to bark? Don't even start barking right now." I don't know. Come here, girl. Come here. Okay. Um but I feel like yeah, I feel like the biggest thing with that is just like leaning into joy. Like if you don't believe in yourself, then nobody else is going to believe in you. If you're not having fun in what you're doing, then nobody is going to want to buy into that. You know what I mean? So being able to like lead with love, lead with joy and things like that, even though it seems like really kind of woo woo kind of work, it's really important, especially knowing that it's come from so many hours, being with dogs, understanding and going through the certifications and things like that. And, what's obvious to you isn't obvious to other people. And I think
Mm.
that's the biggest thing too, because a lot in, this niche and this line of work is that we pick up on certain things every single day being with dogs, but people that are new to dealing with a reactive dog or, a fearful dog or things like that, they don't really understand how big of a factor body language is or environmental cues or, the feeling of different textures under their feet influencing their emotions and mood. And it's like all these little subtle things is really valuable to, be able to bring to the light and stuff like that. And I think, coming kind of full circle, being able to do that through story in sort of my own sensitivity has been such a
Mhm.
gift. I'm all about the
Mhm.
growth.
I will attest to that because, like, every time I share anything where I'm struggling with Darwin, my dog, on social media, I always get the most responses for it because people just want to be seen in their own struggles too. And like, I always get, wow, I'm so glad you shared that because I feel the exact same way. Or, my gosh, I just had another day like that too. Like, thank you for sharing. And it always surprises me how much that resonates with people as opposed to like sharing tips online about loose leash walking or
Yeah.
5 things you should do with your dog every week. And it's really those like human moments where you are just full of emotion and you are just like everybody else that people really resonate with. So I 100% agree with that. And I think that's such a powerful point to storytelling and telling your own story. So that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's also an art that's something that I've been because like both of us we also have our background in marketing and something that I would always because I was in content marketing, so like something that they were always saying, like yeah, how to be like vulnerable, but then like it's hard to kind of like peel the onion and really seeing because there are some things that we are willing to share and like in our head could be vulnerable, but it's just kind of like the parts that we are safe sharing and it kind of like fake vulnerable sometimes because it's just like, well, these kind of like covers kind of like checks for vulnerability, but I think it's like the true vulnerability. In my case, it was when I broke my ankle and I decided to just like post that that happened. And I remember there's this photographer in Vancouver that it's Justin, and he, I mean, he's a
Oh, yeah.
pro, like sharing content and videos and all of that. And I remember he told me I really admire your courage for like showing in the camera like that in such a vulnerable point and just sharing what you're feeling and what you're going through. And for me, it was just like, it just made sense. Like I had to tell people somehow, and I was just wanting to cry all the time. So I'm just going to do what I'm doing. But it's so funny, those moments where it's like, it really does take kind of like taking that step into the zone of like, oh, I don't know how this is going to come out, but just sharing that. I remember with you, Alysha, when you share about Tucker getting like bitten by a dog, it's just like it's such a like vulnerable thing for you to share, because it was kind of like your pet sit and then this thing happened, but then you put it in a way that I was just like, I would really trust you, because you were like, okay, so this is what I did, and I check, like for symptoms for shock, and I took him to the vet the next day, and la 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 la. So it was just like you were just following the first aid like handbook.
Yeah,
So it's just
like,
like, like it's nice when you took something that like you do put yourself out in like, well, someone may take this the wrong way, and turns out that you're getting shame on the internet. But I feel people do feel the intentions, and like when you are truly being like you're putting your heart out, people can understand that. And the same with Olivia. I could feel your frustration the other day when you were sharing of like, my fucking dog. I was having the most amazing morning and then she ruined my day. But it's just like, that is so amazing, especially coming from a trainer where a lot of people want to portray their dogs as like, see, it's cured. So like having you
yeah.
going there and say like, I am frustrated with my dog. It's like,
Mhm.
yes, we
Well,
need that a
especially
lot.
yeah, well, especially in a world where everything is curated, like
Yeah.
so much of everybody's life is curated, and influencers and creators online, and everything seems so polished and so unobtainable sometimes. So it's so nice
Hmm.
to hear when people share really real stories about their frustrations, their struggles, their challenges, or even just how they get through them. And not everybody has a perfect day, and not everybody has a perfect life. So to see stuff like that, I think is just really, it makes you just feel a little bit lighter, because you're like, okay, it's not just
Hmm.
me. Other people go through it too. It's not a big deal. Like we can get through this. It's just another day. We just got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, and I think that's
Hmm.
like
And I think, yeah.
I think that's just the PSA to entrepreneurs and even just, other pet care professionals in general, right? Like you literally search on Instagram, like anything about any reactivity pet, there's like 7 million videos about how 5 tips for loose leash walking, this, and that. But how many, like, yeah, sure, you're going to look at those and you're going to be like, okay, same, all the same tips. Like, this is great. There might be a little bit of a different angle or whatever. But when somebody is able to share their story of like, wow, my dog freaked the fuck out when I tried to go to brunch and literally scratched an old woman and I almost got sued. That's probably and that's the one you're gonna relate to, and that's when you're gonna be people are gonna be like, "Oh, yeah, I need help with
Mhm.
that."
And that is the one that
Oh my
takes the
god.
most to share,
Yeah.
because it's just like sometimes I do say that, oh, like, I want to go through, because I have like so many videos now of, like just like, especially since I got my Ray-Ban Meta, like it's been amazing. But also I have like now so many videos there that it's just kind of like another day passes and I take new videos. So like the videos from yesterday were forgotten there. So it's crazy, but like there are sometimes these moments where, and I think even from the first time that we introduced Tucker and Samu, there's like moments where it's just like, man, like this could have gone like wrong if we weren't both kind of like very insane into like what we were doing and what we were trying to accomplish, and giving this dog an opportunity. And I mean, I feel like there was like there was something inside both of us that made us think like, yeah, like we can try this and this will be, like okay. But it's hard to share those moments because, like you can expect a lot of people. Like I have videos that like literally for the one with Maya that I have, that it's just very positive, like it's a very nice interaction. This guy was just like, yeah, I can tell that you just went into this course and like someone told you to shame other owners. And it's like, bro, it's literally the opposite. Like it's like the complete opposite. This is a beautiful interaction. I am hyping people and saying that we need to show the best of humans a little bit more. And then this guy comes in and it's just like, yeah, someone taught you to like gain views by shaming people. And it's just like, what the hell? Like it's nothing. Like you haven't even watched the video. But I think it's hard when you put yourself out there in a vulnerable place because it can backfire. Sometimes people can take it the wrong way. But I feel like it's still worth sharing that. And if you can help one human feel less alone or that they're not failing as much, because in our heads we're all failing and everyone else is doing amazing because social media is kind of like what it portrays.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think like it's just like a reminder. At least for me, it's like in the New Year's, I really want to share, like the good. And like if I have a video of like a totally failed thing, it's like, well, we have to share those too, because even though we've been working together, sometimes you have fluke days where like everything goes to like mayhem, and that's okay. That's life. We're not robots that once you get programmed, then it's just like, okay, perfect. And I think like that's another thing that for dogs, it's sometimes a reminder to people that they're sentient beings and they have their own ways, and we can do an educated guess of what's happening inside of them, but we will never fully understand their experience, where they're coming from, why they're doing what they're doing. So it's always kind of like coming back of like, you don't have a robot, you have a sentient being, and sentient beings do that, and we do the same thing. So yeah, I think like that's why it's powerful to share those moments.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we're doing our best.
I mean, throughout this whole conversation, I feel like, Alysha, your journey has been very organic in the way you kind of went through one phase of your life to the next and kind of fell into this doggy world and started Tails and Tails. But for anybody, and me and Laura have talked about this in our own episodes too, but for anybody who is thinking that they are wanting to get into this industry, whether it be grooming, care, walking, training, uh, what what advice would you give to them, or what would you tell them just to be able to get started and make that first step or leap into this industry? Or if regardless of whether or not they wanted to start their own business, but they were just thinking about it.
Yeah, so, like, in the pet care world in general, you're saying?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that, kinda similar to what I was referencing or alluding to earlier is that, you know, the basically, sentient beings, energetic beings, dogs, pets, they co-regulate through us. So if we are feeling chaotic in our nervous system and in our energetic space in general, they are going to mirror that, and it's not a fluke if they do so. Like you kind of notice, right, when dogs are like cool around people and then some people they're like, "Oh, fuck you," like bark bark bark, right? And I think, like, just working on your own sort of, nervous system and just decompressing in your own state going into interacting with animals will give you the uh, best experience possible, both for ourselves and us. I think, like I said, like, Tucker is my little mirror, so if I go on a walk and I'm feeling super frazzled, that leash is like an umbilical cord, and he is going to be freaking the F out. Way more than
Mhm.
if I'm walking and I'm feeling, confident and I'm feeling relaxed and I'm feeling, um, just sort of sure of myself and of him to make the right decisions. I feel that's one of the things that I didn't really know as much getting into it and have learned through experience. And, you know, with groomers, trainers, pet care, daycare, all of that, I really think, yeah, that energetic work is really important. And it's like not only is it healing for you, it's healing for them as well. Being able because it's like, unruly people kind of have unruly dogs. Obviously, there's exceptions. Calm owners will have more calm dogs, quiet owners will have more quiet dogs, like that sort of thing. And I think that's one of the most interesting things that I've learned and been able to work on through this, and I tell people about it all the time.
And this is funny because Olivia and I talk sometimes about, like, I mean, yeah, like we talk big feelings all the time, but like I always say that I am a reactive human in healing now. I feel like I am doing like so much better, but I used to be like extremely reactive. So it's so important to identify your own reactivity to life and to things, because we see sometimes trainers who is just like specialize in reactivity, and it's just like she's so reactive herself. So it's funny how we really have to like go back, and I think like what you mentioned, it's very true that dogs really expose us to, like, they put us in situations where we really either have to like deal with our own shit and like figure out what's it's going on inside of us and how we can help ourselves to help them. But yeah, like it's really like that mirror of, okay, so like you're showing me this, like how am I reacting to this? And it's always a little test with them. But yeah, we really have to watch out for our own feelings into the whole thing.
Yeah, and if you don't do the work beforehand, the dogs are definitely gonna help you do the work during.
They're gonna push you to the work.
Yeah, like I wouldn't say I'm a reactive human being, but I would say I don't have a lot of patience and I get frustrated very easily. But working with reactive dogs, man, does that it humbles you real quick. Really puts you in the right headspace.
Absolutely. I know, and it's like your first instinct is obviously to, like, get upset and frazzle, but it's like, no, they're gonna mirror like, if you're yelling at them, you're just barking at them, so then they'll bark back at you.
Yeah,
Right? And
totally.
just understanding, yeah, that calm state, you need to almost be the example, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Of that energetic state, so, yeah.
Totally. I think that's such an interesting little piece of advice you give out to people because I feel like most people, when they hear, oh, you're trying to get into pet stuff or you're trying to get into training or walking, it's usually very like business minded or like the advice is very like strategic in some way. But what you said is very holistic in how what your mindset should be before you even get into this industry. And I totally agree. Like it will help you so much if you can go into it with the right headspace.
I'm a spiritual girly at the end of the day. Like I every morning it's sort of like day in the life behind the scenes of daycare. I'm like, okay, I need to check what cycle of the moon phase is going on. Meditation in the morning. I need to pray, and then I'll light a candle, do my journaling, and then now we go to the forest school. So that's
Time for
just
nature.
yeah, that's just been our journey, and yeah, and I feel like that's the thing too, right? Is like every everybody has a different tolerance, like you said, in terms of the spectrum of patience and things like that. And animals, if you honor them, like they will teach you a lot of patience and they will give, like, they will fill your cup so much. Um,
Mhm.
Yeah, I always say that with humans, like when we like really like, because our mentality sometimes is so driven on like we know what's best and we have to teach other cultures and other things and blah blah blah. But it's just like if you allow the space to like learn, and especially I think with dogs, I have this thing here that it's like humans will give up nature for convenience, so we need nature more than ever before. So like my hypothesis was like the more we grow away from nature, the worse our dogs behave somehow. But it's just like it's us, the ones that are like stepping away from what's natural, and we are putting all of these thoughts into like what's good, what's right, and then you are acting right, and I need to show you how to like behave. But it's just like that. It's really coming from like your perspective, and you like it's an art to really have to like step out, understand a lot more, and really allow yourself to learn from these creatures instead of just coming into the like, "Ah, I'm gonna show you what's right from wrong." But it's just like, but do
mhm.
you really know that? So yeah.
But Alicia, okay, well, we've asked all of our guests this so far, and we've asked ourselves this. But we like to have a fun little question before we let you go today. And the question is, if you were a breed or type of dog, what would it be?
Would you be a cinnamon poodle?
Poodle. Are you just Tucker and Tucker is you and you guys are one and the same?
So fun fact. So yes, I am absolutely, I mean, you guys have seen Tucker sing. He is a very spiritual, soulful man. Anybody listening, you can watch, you go to Tales and Tales and you can see Tucker sing to soul music. He loves to sing to violin. Yeah, I would be, I think, a poodle. Definitely, yes. Tucker is me in dog form. But fun fact is the reason actually that I got Tucker, like I said, um the business was already running before I had him, and then my dad randomly got served an ad on Kijiji of this little poodle puppies born on the same day as me,
Really?
and I was
Oh my gosh.
oh, wow, look at that. And so I was like, let's just go see. Like, but of course, when you go see a
You never
rare
just go see a
mm,
puppy.
no, you're about to meet your little soulmate. So Tucker and I share the same birthday. And yes, I think he he is I literally when he does singing videos, I'm like, who were you in a past life? You have so much soul. But then I'm like, oh, you're a little artist like me. You're a little sensitive soul artist like me. Um, yes, I definitely think I would be a little bit more of a poodle. Very, very, I guess, intelligent, trainable, but spicy. Like you have your own opinions about the world.
It's funny because like when I see pictures of you together, I'm like, oh yeah, this is like one of those situations where it's like that dog fits that human and that human fits that dog. Like you guys, have you watched 101 Dalmatians and then the beginning scene where it's like all these people and
The
their dogs and they
walking.
all and they all look like their dogs. I feel like that's like you and Tucker, where you guys just like resemble each other. And maybe it's the cinnamon, like because your hair is kind of red. It's
Yeah, fair
red
enough.
and
Yeah,
brown.
a
Yeah.
little bit. Yeah,
So I think it's super cute, just like the visual of you two together. I think it's very fitting.
that's cute. I
And that
appreciate
was
that
an
because I think
easy
he's very
reply.
handsome.
Yeah, I love that because yeah, like sometimes people struggle and it's just like, which dog would I be? But you were like right away, I would be
Right.
Tucker.
Tucker.
Well, if you
Oh,
can just let people know if they want to learn more about you, if they want to see Tucker, if they want to learn more about you, I know that you also have a podcast. So if you want to, oh, there's Tucker.
cool.
So yeah, if you want to share with people like where they can find you and promote anything that there is to promote, feel free.
Yeah, sure. So you can find us at tailsandtails.ca or at tailsandtails_Canada on Instagram. We post our daily activities, and we'll be posting a little bit more about as our daycare at the acreage or our fur farm. It's is
Forest
expanding.
school.
Yeah, so we're expanding our fur farm community, and we're really excited for that. And yeah, basically for all pet sitting, daycare, private hike needs, we're your gals, and the personal growth that is included within pet care and pet ownership. That's our vibe.
Oh, that's awesome. And then what's your podcast, Alysha?
So my podcast is a little bit more on the personal side. It's not a pet care podcast like you lovely ladies have created for all of us. But I have a personal brand called Creative Living with Leash, and it's basically the stories of entrepreneurship. Like I said, I also am an artist, a little sensitive soul. So I write a lot of poetry and novels. So I talk a little bit about creating all of that sort of thing on Creative Living with Leash.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm sure
Oh.
there's a lot of entrepreneurs who would love to hear it, or just creative minds, because there's a lot of that here.
Yeah, because
Oh.
being a multi-passionate and sensitive person, like I shared with you guys, I went from media to pet care, and then at the same time also have written some novels, released some poetry, done lots of different sorts of things. So it's lovely to be able to lean into both, but be able to yeah, really experience and give my baby boy and so many of the dogs in our fur fam the best life, and that's what the business is about.
Oh, that's
I love it.
awesome. Well, Alysha, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today and sharing your story with us. I know you and Laura have talked before, but it was actually my first time actually speaking to you as another person instead of over Instagram.
Yeah.
So it was nice to hear your story and how it all began. Yeah, thanks guys for listening. And if you want to follow Alysha, go to all her pages, Tails and Tails. So that's Tails, Tails, and Tails, Tales. Don't get confused.
You
It's
got
not double the tails.
It's not double tails.
Yeah. But anyways,
Thank
thanks for
you.
joining us, and we will see you guys on our next episode.
Okay.
Bye.
Woo!